Hello, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a very fascinating show today. When I travel around the world, and I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to do so, the thing that's very interesting to me is to look at money, to look at how things get exchanged, how the money gets exchanged from different currencies to other currencies. And it's such a fascinating space for me. It's such an interesting space. I've always wondered who are the leaders behind sort of the software that has been developed really for the foreign currency exchange industry. So, of course, I went through my Rolodex. I reached out to some people and said, hey, who's one of the worldwide leading experts in this space? And they directed me to Mr. Tiran Behrouz. And Tiran is really a fascinating person. He's got a great journey, a remarkable entrepreneurial story. He's the CEO of Clearview Systems. And really what he's been able to develop is a worldwide leading software that does currency exchange. It's very fascinating. Let's get right to it. Tiran, welcome to the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Show today.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I've watched some of the previous interviews you did with some people, and they were great. So it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. It's so easy to do an interview when you have so many fascinating people like you, and I want to get right into it. Before we go deep into the dive, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet as we always do, Tiran, as you know, on the show. And let's tell everybody what Clearview Systems is all about.
Absolutely. So we are a small software development company. We focus on developing financial software for the small to mid-size market. Initially, we wanted to be the financial software for the mom and pop shops who cannot afford banking software. And they needed it because of compliance, legal, and all the regulations that's going around that financial industry. So we provided that gaps, we filled that gap and with our software and technologies.
Tiran, I love it so much. You're very modest. Your professional currency exchange software is used and trusted by thousands of foreign exchange professionals in over 40 countries throughout the world. So it's really a great software. Let's talk about it a little bit. So let's say I need to have a currency exchange. What types of companies come to you at Clearview and they say, hey, Tiran, we've heard about your system. The testimonials are amazing. The guy next door to me at his shop is using it. How do I engage with you? How do I get started using Clearview Systems?
Absolutely. So many of our customers, as I mentioned, are the small to medium-sized financial companies, mom and pop shops that need a system to run their business, their small business, family business sometimes. And they are what we call MSBs, money service businesses. These include bureaux de change or currency exchangers, money transfer organizations. It could be a travel agency that just wants to offer some kind of services to their clientele. Sometimes we have casinos that approach us because they need to offer currency exchange to the customers, and they need systems and solutions for that. And we do have the occasional banks and central banks that also have approached us and are currently using our software for that purpose. So typical financial companies, small to medium size. That's our market.
Tiran, that's so interesting. So I'm in a foreign country. I walk into a currency exchange shop, maybe a bank, maybe another financial type of institution. It's very possible that your system is running, in the background. Your software is the one that really is the one that they're using for the currency exchange industry. How hard is it for a company to integrate with you? How do you set that up for that company? What's that look like in terms of that onboarding process?
It is very simple, actually. We do have an onboarding process. Obviously, we want to make sure we're dealing with companies that are registered and are legally doing business. They have the right paperwork for starting the business. we consult them, first of all, telling them what they need in terms of compliance, in terms of regulations, what they need to abide by. And in terms of system, then we come and offer them a trial basis, just they can start with our system and get a feel of how it works. We offer training, we do the installation and everything, and it's all, it can be done in less than a day. Half a day, we can get them up and running. The training takes about 2 or 3 sessions for their tellers and then the managers and the administrators to learn the system.
Wow, talk about fast, simple, and easy. That's why Clearview is one of the leaders in the space for the types of customers that you work with. It's really amazing, Tiran, and it's a really incredible software that you've developed and what you've been able to put together with your background in finance and math. Really, really interesting. When we think about the different countries, Tiran, so we think about, Asia or Africa, Europe, South America. Do each one of those countries have different rules and regulations with regard to the foreign exchange and monetary system that they have?
They do. A lot of the basic rules that are in place are similar across the board. And these are usually in terms of detecting money laundering activities and making sure that, the financial companies are not dealing with the wrong people. So some kind of sanction screening that has to happen, background checks that need to happen for their clienteles. So all of that has to be in the system and across the board, from Fiji, Australia, and New Zealand, and all the way to Asia, they're using our system. What we do is we look at the regulation, the local regulations, and we configure a software to be compliant with the local regulation. So it's a bunch of parameters that need to be set on first day of the business, and we do the research on behalf of our clients, and we do all those configurations. So when the system is installed and ready to go, the customer can be sure that our system is doing its part in making sure they are staying in compliance. And that's really important for them.
I love it, Tiran. I would imagine there has to be something almost real time because, the money changes all the time. The exchange rates change all the time. How does that work within the software system?
So you're absolutely right. The currency rates are constantly changing. And this is one of the challenges of running this type of business, because you got to be on top of it. You need to set up your margins. You need to make sure that your website is always up to date with all the rates that you offer. You got to make sure that you're ahead of the competitors that are offering the same type of services too. So there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of. And also the accounting part is very challenging for this type of business. As you mentioned, the currency rates change all the time. So the system has to constantly track these rates live with the market and apply the margins that the customer wants, our customer. And so when the tellers are doing their transaction, they don't have to worry about anything, whether the rate is wrong or hasn't been updated. Everything happens simultaneously in the background for them. And they can just rest assured the system doing its part to make sure they're making a profitable business.
I love it. And the system, has such great following and so many people using the system just love it. It's so simple to onboard with it. From the tellers to the owners of the business, they all love using your system. It's really amazing. When we think about going to a foreign country and you go to a street, Tiran, and there's sometimes 2 or 3, money exchange shops right after another, let's just say. And you mentioned the margins, and I think that's really an interesting sort of segue. So when we think about the margins, when you go to different money exchange places right next to each other, the exchange rates are a little different, or the amount they charge might be a little different. Is that what we're talking about with regard to the margins?
Correct. There is perhaps a fee. Some of the exchanges charge a fee on top of the margin. So when you look at the rate, an exchange rate, for example, US to Canadian on the market, live market rate, and sometimes customers expect that they will get the same rate when they go to a small shop. That's not the case because those rates are for millions of dollars of exchange. So it's kind of like a wholesale price. So when a wholesaler goes and purchases a lot of currency at a wholesale reduced price, they buy it very close to the market rate. But when they are selling it to their customer, in order to make profit, they need to add a margin. So if they buy, just like a product, you buy a can of Coke for $1, if you want to make a margin, you got to sell it at 1.20 cents, 1.20. So you make 20 cents profit on that trade, on that exchange. So the currency exchange business is similar to that. So every currency or foreign currency is considered a product. So when I'm in Canada and I talk about US dollars is like a product for us. It's not money. It's just a product that has a price, and this price is changing all the time. So when I want to sell it, I want to make sure I follow the price of the market, and I make sure that I apply my margin so that I don't make a loss when I'm selling it. And when I buy, I have to make sure that I buy cheaper than the margin so that at the end of the day, between my buys and my sells, I make a profit.
That makes all the sense in the world, Tiran, and of course your team and your software, enables those customers of yours to be able to do that very efficiently. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about paper money for a minute, because you go on the headlines and everybody's talking about the Bitcoin and the electronic currency, and you press a button and you pay, but still there's a lot of notes floating around the world right now, isn't there? There's a lot of notes around the world, and I think for a while there will be. As long as the tourism industry is there, people are going to bring cash to other countries, and sometimes it's cheaper to bring cash to the country. If you're traveling to Mexico, you want to bring your pesos there and make sure that you're not using your debit card or credit card with high interest and large margins. So the margins you usually find at a local exchange shop is way less than what the bank offers, and way less than what your credit card will charge you for the exchange. You see, that's a perfect example of someone from, North America, Canada, or, the United States going down to Mexico, and they're going to use their credit card. Well, they're going to be hit with fees. The exchange rate's not going to be advantageous. If they go down with pesos that they already have, or go down with dollars and exchange into pesos, when you think about it, you get a much better deal, a much better financial opportunity for you and your family when you do the exchange through one of the exchange rate companies down in Mexico. And I'm sure they're probably using, Clearview systems down there as well. So, Tiran, when we think about your entrepreneurial journey, you're a software developer, and you obviously have this passion about money. And I love it so much. So you've been able to combine this idea that, people need this software. Businesses need this software for the foreign exchange market. Plus, I love software so much. Maybe I can develop this. Tell us about how it all started, because it's a very fascinating story.
Thank you. It started about 2003. A friend of mine approached me at the time I was in university. He said, there is one exchange shop that wants to develop their own currency exchange software. Because regulation is becoming tougher, they need to do all the record keeping according to the regulations. So can you help? At the time, I had no idea what this business is all about and how it works, but I agreed, and I said, well, it's going to be a side job for me. I'm going to make some money while I'm at school. So it started that way. It took me about 6 months to develop an initial product, and took it to the customer, and he liked it. He really liked it. He said, we were going to be using this, and they went live with it. They started using it. And for me at the time, it was crazy and amazing at the same time, seeing an actual financial company using a software that I wrote on the side while I was doing my studies. So it started from there, and then eventually we saw some other people approach us and said, well, we want something similar to what these guys have, and can you provide something, customize it, make it look better? And so this journey started back then. It's about 17 years ago, and slowly I've been developing this and making it better and more versions, more secure, faster. So all the things that come with the new technology. So every year we have new releases that have more capabilities in every aspect.
Tiran, I love it. I mean, here you are, you're at school at the university, you have a side gig, you developing some software, someone reaches out to you and they say, hey, we know you've got the chops to do this. And here you are at the university, you put your first minimal viable product out. The company that you gave it to loved it. And then all of a sudden the floodgates open. I mean, I love that entrepreneurial story. It's absolutely amazing. Now, Tiran, there's going to be some people watching the show, I'm sure. And they're going to say to themselves, I've always thought about this foreign exchange business. My father-in-law was talking about this a number of months ago. Hey, what about the foreign exchange business? Maybe we should open up a shop. In terms of companies or entrepreneurs that want to get into the business, can it be a lucrative business to own a foreign exchange shop? Let's just, high level talk about that a little bit.
High level talk, absolutely. It can be lucrative. However, it has its own challenges. A lot of, as I mentioned, regulations, and these include banking regulations and anti-money laundering regulations that need to be followed strictly. So before someone just says, okay, this is a lucrative business, I got to jump in and start doing this, they got to do the research. What is the local regulation or their country requires them to do, where they need to register. They need to read a lot about the laws of this business. And once they have that, and then they absolutely need a system. 10 years ago, you could have done this manually maybe or with an Excel sheet, but nowadays it's impossible because of everything that you need to do, the sanction screening, the record keeping, the way you need to report some of the transactions. And they need to have a system in place. They need to have also consultants that will teach them and coach them on how to set up their business properly.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. It's like any other business. When you're in business, you need to be in that business and be an entrepreneur and work hard and put your feet, firmly planted on the ground. And when you make some mistakes or you get a roadblock or a challenge, you push through. And we're going to talk about that a little bit with you a little bit later in the show. I know you've only sliced out a certain amount of time for me today, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the way in which your team has listened to your customers along the way, because I know that's a very important sort of idea that you have in terms of your success. When a customer says to you, hey, Tiran, maybe we need this bell or that whistle, or we need to improve here. How important is it, or has it been along your journey, to listen to your customers' needs and find out, from them what they need so you can deliver the best possible software system?
Listening to the customer is probably the most important thing you can do in this business, because they are the ones using the system, and every day they have the challenges they need to face. And so when a customer comes back to us and say, we need some kind of integration with this third-party system, or we need some kind of help to make this screen larger or better, or have buttons in here that can help us with this and that, we absolutely listen to them. We are very proactive in adapting to the new laws and regulations, but also adaptive to what our customers need. A part of the success formula is that we also research the tools, development tools that we use, and they're not very conventional development tools. So that's another part of the equation that we pay attention to. And it's also attention to the quality of the product. At the end of the day, once you have a product that is robust, that is versatile, it has the customization that the customer requires, it's fast and it's secure, then you have a successful formula, you have a software that people can trust. Because let me tell you, it wasn't easy the first 5 years to make people trust our software. Because when you don't have many customers, it's always comes to, okay, can you give us a reference of a large company or this company that who has been using this? And when you're starting, it's extremely difficult to have those references. But over the years, it took us 5-6 years. We started having a portfolio of clients, and we were able to use them as reference, and they were vouching for us and the security and the robustness of our software.
I love it, Tiran. It makes all the sense in the world. I call you the maestro of foreign exchange technology and software. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because I know you're in, over 40 countries. Which country is the hardest through regulation and things like that, to set up a foreign exchange business, and which country is the easiest to set up a foreign exchange business?
I don't know which country is the hardest, but I can tell you the US and Canada are hard. So they have some of the toughest regulations. In Europe, the regulations are following somehow the US and Canadian regulations, interestingly. Probably Sweden is one of the toughest countries that we have had to install, because they have so much regulations around financial companies. The easiest, it's hard to say nowadays. Honestly, I don't think there is any country, perhaps in the Middle East, you can find some countries like Dubai that maybe the regulation is not as difficult as some other countries, but let me tell you, they're catching up fast. And in order for the whole world to be able to do this, financial transactions securely, safely, and complying with the regulation, things are getting a little bit tougher for the exchange businesses.
That's very interesting. And I would imagine, besides just having this amazing, robust software as an exchange business, they also have to be a little bit concerned about figuring out how to determine whether a note is actually, a real note, or whether it's a duplicate, or whether it's a forgery. And that's a different part of the business as well. Plus, that business has to think about how to move money around and how to securely take the money and get it from point A to B and get it into a bank or into an account or something like that. So it is an evolved and involved type of a profession, type of an entrepreneurial approach. But certainly, at least the software part of it can be handled in a seamless way through Clearview. So that's very, very interesting. Now, Tiran, I want to talk to you about entrepreneurship, because you've got a great story. I mean, here you are, you're at the university, you get into the software development, you put together your first system, the company that you built it for loved it, and then all of a sudden you said to yourself, wow, this could be something that I want to commit to long term. And then all of a sudden, all these other companies are reaching out to you and they're saying, Tiran, we've heard about this system you built. You have an aha moment, and there you are. And 17, 18 years later, you're in over 40 countries with thousands of foreign exchange professionals using your technology. So for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, they might be hitting a roadblock. Like you mentioned, in the first 5-6 years of your business, it was hard. But these younger entrepreneurs now, they might be hitting a roadblock. They might be hitting a wall that they can't get over. Maybe they freeze in the frame and they kind of freak out a little bit as an entrepreneur. So maybe you could share some insight or some valuable wisdom to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show about what it takes to get through those tough times early on in a business.
Andy, the beginning was hard, as you mentioned. The first 5 years, we had 7 clients only. And when it's that low and you've worked so hard and you think it's so difficult to gain a new client. I had one teacher in university who told me, if you started your business and it's the first 5 years, just don't worry too much. You got to just keep pushing because you're going to see success after if you're able to work hard and just believe in what you're doing. So you need to deal with the challenges one day at a time. The challenges keep coming, whether it's regulation changing or customers that require something that it's not easy to create or as fast as they want. The challenges are coming, but what you have to do is deal with them on a daily basis and believe that you're doing something good. You're helping them. For me, it was believing that I'm helping the small businesses compete with the larger banks. It was something that was always there. When a customer came to me and said, "Oh, thank you. Because of your software, we were able to pass our compliance audit successfully." And it made all the difference in the world for me because I made, okay, developing financial software cannot be a really rosy thing to do. Sometimes it's a lot of work, a lot of mental work. But at the end of the day, when you hear the customer say, well, you saved our business by making us pass this compliance audit, it makes me happy. So I have to say, believing what you're doing and keeping in mind how you're helping the people that you're helping or yourself in your journey is a huge help. And as you grow, I used to be one-man show until 2008, and then I started growing the team, and now we're 10 people. We're still small, but really, they're my extended family. They help me a lot. I feel like now the team is the driver for making me work harder and better. They've helped me so much through all these years in every aspect of this business. And so things come slowly, yes.
I love it, Tiran. Corporate culture starts at the top. The people that work with you at Clearview enjoy working with you. They're part of the team. They know that they're providing something to people so that they can feed their families by having a great business in the foreign exchange, profession. It's really remarkable. Now, I've got an unusual question for you because people are going to be watching the show and they're going to want to know, what was going on through Tiran's mind when he was at the university as a student, but as the side gig, he started building this first software. So looking back now, Tiran, what would you say to yourself?
So many things I can tell myself, but probably the one thing I would keep reminding myself is that things are going to work. Things are going to work all right. As much as you see the challenges, as much as things are hard, you're in university, you don't know what course to take that will make a difference. And you have so much to worry about. Oh, my assignments are late, and now I have to make sure that I finish this work on time. So there's a lot of stress on you. But you got to look at the big picture. You got to relax and say, okay, everything's going to be okay. You just have to trust that things are going to fall into place, even though they don't look like they're going to fall into place. It's only a matter of time. Keep working hard, and it always pays off.
I love it. I love it so much. It really does pay off. And as you go through the entrepreneurial journey, for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, and even more senior entrepreneurs watching the show, we all face challenges. And the thing that's beautiful that I really think Tiran is mentioning is the fact that if you don't have challenges and you don't have potholes and you don't hit walls, then you're just not pushing hard enough. So don't worry about the fact that you're hitting those potholes. That just says you're pushing hard and you're going hard. And I know, Tiran, when you were at the university many, many years ago, and you were up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning developing the new software as well as studying at the same time, it was probably very exciting and also, very energizing for you. And you didn't even know you were going to end up having a business when you first started out. And here you are with a great team, a world-class team working with you as software developers, as customer support personnel, and you've built a world-class company. And like you mentioned, it's small, but it's very nimble. And I think that people really appreciate that because oftentimes businesses, they become too big and they become non-nimble. In your particular case, you've kept it very insular, but yet you have enough people and enough technology to provide the world-class service to your customers, as evidenced by so many people using the software and all the great reviews about it. So, Tiran, this has been absolutely remarkable. For the entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind a little bit, because I'm thinking to myself, I want to rewind the interview myself already, because it's so empowering to hear this story, this evolution of someone that started early and built a company. And the key, Tiran, is what you mentioned. At 5 or 6 years, it wasn't going as well as it is now, but you kept pushing. You kept pushing one foot in front of the other. You had people around you that you respected and mentors that you leaned on and a great support staff that kept their foot to the grindstone and kept their mind going in a positive way. So, Tiran, it's been awesome having you on the show. I know I've been waiting for a number of months to get you on the show. I love the space you're in. I love the fact that you're a leader in the space. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you very much, Andy. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.